Welcome to this lecture on William Lilly's Christian Astrology, a lecture by Professor Paisian. I see we have a more select group this term. The frivolous have fallen away, as they always do when confronted with the sheer labor the celestial art demands. Good! We can now speak as initiates not to the outer mysteries, but to the inner courts of our subject. Last term, we dwelt with Ptolemy in the rarefied logical era of Alexandria. We dealt with a universal system, a cosmology for emperors and empires. Today, we descend into the grime and tumult of the 17th century. We travel to London, a city soon to be ravaged by plague and fire, a city tearing itself apart in a civil war. And here we meet our man, William Lilly, a former servant turned astrologer physician who would become the most famous and infamous seer of his age. His masterpiece, which you have before you, is pointedly titled Christian Astrology. The title itself is a paradox, a defensive gambit, in an age of Puritan fervor, where the line between divine providence and diabolical magic was zealously patrolled. Lilly had to justify his practice. He does so not by abandoning the pagan roots of his art, but by baptizing them. He argues that the stars are instruments of God's will, and that to understand them is to better understand the divine plan. Is a clever and perhaps necessary piece of theological positioning. But do not be fooled by the title. This is not a theological treatise. It is, as its subtlety subtitle declares, a work modestly treated in 3 books. And it is, above all else, a practical manual. Where Ptolemy gave us a philosophy, Lilly gives us a toolkit. He is the first great comprehensive astrological textbook written in the English language, and its purpose was to make the art accessible not to princes, but to the common man. The grocer who has had his purse stolen, the wife who wonders if her merchant husband is safe at sea, the gentleman unsure of a profitable land purchase. These are Lilly's clients. His astrology is for the streets, the markets, and the anxious households of London. Book 1 is his Thesaurus Astrology, his grammar. Here he lays the foundation with a clarity and systematic rigor that puts many of our modern authors to shame. He explains the signs, the planets, the houses, and the aspects, but his genius and the primary focus of this work lies in his exhaustive treatment of horary astrology. For those of you still clinging to the notion of astrology as a vague forecast of your love life, prepare for a shock. Horary astrology is jurisprudence. It is forensic investigation. A question is posed, where is my missing silver spoon? And at that moment, a chart is cast for the heavens above. That chart becomes a celestial crime scene, and the astrologer, the detective. Lilly's system is one of breathtaking specificity. He establishes a set of coherent, repeatable rules. The first house and its ruler signify the querent, the person asking the question. The second house rules their movable possessions. The 7th, their open enemies or marriage partner. The 10th, their reputation or mother. Every planet, every sign, every house has a domain of signification. The key to Lilly's method is the concept of reception. This is where the language of the stars becomes a dialogue. If the ruler of the first house is in the sign of the ruler of the 7th, the querent is received by the significator of the other person. They are in their power, subject to their whims, or perhaps under their protection. It is a nuanced way of describing relationships. Furthermore, he employs essential and accidental dignities. A planet may be strong by essential dignity in its own sign, but weak accidentally, perhaps retrograde or in a cadent house, or combust the sun. The judgment lies in weighing this evidence. Let us consider a classic example from his work, the question of a lost object. The chart is not a vague suggestion to look near water. No. Lilly would have you identify the house that signifies the object. Is it an animal? Look to the 6th, a document, the 3rd or 9th. Then you examine the ruler of that house. Is it strong, angular, and direct? The object is likely safe and will be found. Is it weak, cadent, and retrograde? It is lost, damaged, or hidden. Is it an aspect to the moon? The recovery is imminent. The condition of the thief, if there is one, is judged from the 7th house ruler. It is a system of terrifying precision. This brings us to the most famous and most controversial application of his art, his political predictions. In his 1651 almanac, Monarchy or No Monarchy, he included a symbolic image of a city engulfed in flames. 15 years later, in 1666, the Great Fire of London erupted. Was this prescience? Perhaps, but the parliamentary committee that hauled him before them suspected something else: conspiracy. They investigated him not for poor forecasting, but for arson. The fear was that his diagram was not a prediction but a blueprint, that he was part of a fifth monarchist plot to use astrological timing to execute a terrorist act. This is the ultimate testament to the power his art was perceived to hold. It was no longer just about lost spoons, it was about the fate of the city itself. Now, a critical thought. We must wrestle with Lilly's legacy. His strength is his practicality, his codification of a messy oral tradition into a coherent body of law. But this is also his weakness. The student who learns only Lilly's rules without Ptolemy's philosophy risks becoming a mere mechanic, a celestial clerk who can identify a square but cannot feel its dramatic tension. The humanistic depth of a Rudar is entirely absent here. This is astrology as a science of judgment, not a psychology of soul making. Furthermore, what we must ask is, how Christian is Christian astrology? It is a veneer. The techniques, the planetary gods, the daemonic spirits he references in his later works on magic are the direct descendants of the Hermetic and Arabic traditions. The Christianity is the frame, not the painting. In conclusion, William Lilly stands as a colossal figure, a Janus facing both the medieval past and the empirical future. He took the cosmic principles of Ptolemy and applied them to the dirty, particular, and urgent questions of human life. He demystified the art for the common man, and in doing so demonstrated its terrifying potency in the political sphere.